With the One Piece live action now visible over the distant horizon, I really wanted to take some time to talk about our expectations for the series. We already talked about some of the things that the series will need to avoid to appeal to an American audience at large in a previous video, but this video is basically my wish list as a die-hard One Piece fan for the series. Originally, I was going to break down what I'd like to see in each episode of the series, as we know that the episodes will run for about 60 minutes and that there will be 10 of them, covering the East Blue arc. However, as I was investigating what would be the optimal breakdown of the episodes, I actually came to the conclusion that I can't figure out how to stretch this to 10 episodes, or at least my original plan was flawed. Apparently, instead of having to stick to rigid arc-based episodes, we can actually get a little creative and add some flair. We can add some cover stories. So, let's talk about the One Piece live action's pacing. We have a good benchmark of how this manga can be translated into a visual media already in place, so we don't have to guess blindly or get a stage troupe together to act out the scenes, which is good because we're not allowed to get together in big groups anyway. Otherwise, I would totally do that and put that online for you guys. So, let's assume that the first season is covering the entirety of the East Blue. That section of the anime ran for 61 episodes. Plus, let's add in Kobe Meppo's cover story, adding 2 more episodes. Now, of course, all of Warship Island, aside from a few scenes, was completely filler, plus 2 episodes in Logue Town. But let's imagine we keep Usopp's fight with Daddy the Father, because it was originally intended to be canon. Now we have 54 episodes at about 21.5 minutes each, excluding openings and endings. That is 1,161 minutes of One Piece, or 19.35 hours. So from the looks of it, we actually have the opposite problem, too many episodes. But let's be honest with ourselves. The pacing of the average anime is completely unpalatable to the uninitiated. But, you may say, One Piece is not your average anime, and you'd be right. No, One Piece is a Toei series, so it goes much, much slower than the average anime. Go back and consider the Syrup Village arc, for example. Watch an episode of it. I think that arc is the most serious offender in the East Blue when it comes to pacing. So much so that even 4Kids thought it was too bad and merged episodes together. And you know what? I never even noticed. Anyway, the point is this. While originally I wasn't sure if 10 episodes was enough to cover East Blue, I think the maximum number of episodes is 10. And that's assuming that we include side stories, like Kobe Meppo, which personally I think is essential, Buggy's story, and yes, even and especially Gaimon's Island. Now, I can't predict what they are going to do to pace this correctly. Will Shell's Town begin in the first episode? The second? How long will Zoro's flashback be? The anime gave us a lot more time with it than the manga did. His flashback is actually only a few pages in the manga. But what I can tell you is what I'd like to see in the series, so join me as we take a deep dive into each manga chapter and talk about the things I look forward to seeing adapted, how I hope they are done, and why. And be sure to tell us in the comments what scenes and characters you are looking forward to seeing come to life the most. Of course, there's only one way to start the show, with the execution of Gold D. Roger, or as newer viewers will know him, Gold Roger, King of the Pirates. In the supposed leaked scripts of the series, there was a lot of filler added to that scene. I personally don't know how I feel about that. People who aren't longtime viewers aren't going to flip their lid over reaction shots of Sengoku or Garp. Now, this might be personal taste, but I don't think they should extend this a frame longer than necessary. If they can work Garp or Sengoku into the scene, that's fine, but let's not hear them talk or watch them react. This isn't their story, and having them say ominous stuff about the world at large that isn't going to mean anything for at least 3 seasons, that's not really good writing. Plus, do they really want to have to hire their Sengoku actor already? It seems a little risky. Garp, sure. After all, I'm hoping we'll see him with Kobe this season, and having him be at Roger's execution will add weight to his agreeing to train our pink-haired baby. This scene doesn't need cameos and extended shots. It needs dramatic camera work, an excellent narrator, and a swelling soundtrack that gets you pumped for what all this could mean. Now, do I have thoughts about who should play Gold Roger? Why, thank you for asking. A lot of people say that they want a major actor to step in and take the role, which, while being incredible, is honestly a little unlikely. You see, we used to think that this was going to be all we're getting of Roger, cause, you know, he's dead. However, we recently got an extended flashback that heavily features Roger in his heyday. Well, what does that mean? In other words, unless Johnny Depp is a huge One Piece fan and doesn't mind coming back to shoot in like 10 years, he isn't going to be Roger. Now personally, I would love to see some hotshot actor who secretly loves One Piece being recruited to play Roger, but to be honest, it probably isn't happening. Besides, do we really want people to think One Piece is part of some Pirates of the Caribbean cinematic universe? Well, actually maybe. But that's enough about the first page of the manga. Just kidding, I have more to say. For instance, I hope the show sticks to the manga's interpretation of the scene in one other critical aspect. In the manga, no one asks Roger where his treasure is. They didn't have to, you see. Roger showed up here with the explicit desire to say those words and get people looking for the One Piece. The show should make sure he says those words of his own volition. Am I being nitpicky? Not at all. This is key lore, and in retrospect, it's pretty important. Okay, now I'm actually done talking about the first page of the manga. Now, while both the anime and manga start at the death of Roger, they immediately diverge into two separate directions. Personally, I think starting off with Luffy's childhood is better than starting off with Alvida, and that is for 3 reasons. The first is that Luffy's childhood starts with something way more dramatic than his time on Alvida's island/ship, him stabbing his own eye. I've seen the anime interpret this as Luffy being very hesitant about stabbing himself, but I hate that. Luffy did not think this action through, and an abrupt jab to the face is just what this show needs to make desensitized 2020 people go, oh snap, that little kid just stabbed himself in the eye. The next moment of Luffy's childhood, and one I wouldn't mind extended, is the fight between Ben Beckman and the Mountain Bandits. If there's one thing I know for sure, it's that the creative team behind the One Piece live action knows how to compose a fight scene. And this scene will be the absolute perfect opportunity for them to flex. To be honest, the first few arcs of One Piece don't have a lot of fights in them. Most of the opponents Luffy fights are not really serious opponents, but getting to see Beckman wailing on these guys will be a treat. I also think that cigarette to the head shot is one of my favorites of all time. The third thing that makes this part of the story perfect is the Sea King at the end. That is a lot scarier and more exciting than anything else that happens for a while, so I hope they really go all out with it. I want some Jurassic Park level stuff here. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with any more Sea Kings until Momo, so I really think they can put a little more of the budget into this, especially since it will be people's first taste of One Piece, and they need this episode to be eye-catching. Speaking of this scene, I do have one problem with it in both the anime and the manga. The way Devil Fruit users and water interact later in the series is a little different from how it's presented here. Luffy seems to really be able to keep himself afloat here, and I really don't like that. If I were directing the live action, I would have him just sink. The Sea King eats Higuma, which we see, but Luffy doesn't, and then the Sea King goes under the water. As Luffy is sinking helplessly in the water, deeper and deeper, unable to move, you just see this thing swimming at him. Its shadow getting larger and larger, it opens its mouth and, well, the rest of the scene can play out just like normal. The rest of the scene is perfect. But I don't know, this little change would mean a lot to me. Now, one other thing I didn't cover yet is the theme song. Every show needs a theme song. Now, I'm not a musician, so I'm not going to sit here and compose a piece for the series, though I would love to. But personally, I don't want them to use the anime theme songs. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but those songs were written in Japanese at a very different time for a very different type of media. I love a lot of them. In fact, we made a whole video about them. But I really hope we get to see something new. Like in most series, we probably won't see the theme song until episode 2 or at the end of the first episode, but I just thought I'd let you know what my thoughts were on this very crucial part of any TV series. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or if you'd like to see We Are brought back to the live action. Now, obviously, Luffy's childhood will not be the end of the first episode. This was only like 20 minutes worth of content. We need to have at least Luffy visit Alvida's island, if not Shell's Town. Of course, this would mean fitting the 5 most packed episodes of the anime into one episode of the live action. I think it will have a lot to do with how much time they dedicate to Zoro's backstory. But let me know in the comments. We have an hour-long episode here. How much do you think they will be able to fit into it? Also, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on the live action and any news about the series as soon as it comes out, consider subscribing. Next week, we'll talk about the rest of the Romance Dawn arc and how I hope they will handle it.
Yo! Geigo! Hey there!
Don't leave without subbing.
Hey there!
Don't leave without liking.
Hey there!
Don't forget to comment. Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell.